Don, you're 52 years in the business. Is that right?
That is right. Yep.
Yeah.
And coming up on 30 for this great place that we're in right now. That is KFGO. I'm very lucky.
Yeah.
But I've worked in North Dakota. I'm a Minnesotan. I grew up as a Minnesotan, up in northwestern Minnesota. But, I ended up 3 different stations. Very short for a couple of them, but I was at this one the most. But, I was very close to Canada when I first started. So,
well, tell me about those early days, when you first started out.
Well, I had 2 years of college, and I bailed out of that. And a couple of my friends, we were all going to go to Moorhead State. And they went, I didn't. I decided not to go. And this may sound funny because I was always interested in journalism, but I remember driving down the highway and I thought, where can I go to make money and play music? But it was more to that. But I ended up going to a broadcasting school that was in Thief River Falls, Minnesota. There's several of our group here that did the same over the years. So that's where I started. And it was shortly after that, I met my now wife, Debbie, during that time, back in 73, 74. And I got a job in Grafton, North Dakota at KXPO, I forget. But it used to be KGPC. Knew a lot of people there. There were some great people that owned that. One of them was a very good friend, and maybe some people will remember that name, Rodney Webb. He owned part of it. He was, in Grafton. He was a lawyer, and I think he was also a city judge. Wonderful man that I got to know, and a lot of other people as well. And I moved on in that. I became the news guy there, and I was also on the air of this station. And, I did a lot of things, some good, some bad. I had to go to city council meetings. I learned all of that. I had to go to work early in the morning. Back in those days, we had different things. So I had, I got up and went to work early, had to turn the radio station on, I think, at 5 o'clock in the morning. Had to play the Pledge of Allegiance in the morning and start doing that. And then I also, at the same time, had to do news. It was a smaller station, but it was a very good station. It was built new by some guys, and, I was very lucky.
Yeah.
But a couple of my friends that are from here now are from there, and you still connect with them,
Mm-hmm.
And I had some close calls. Back, we always talk about the news. You shouldn't talk about that. But, there were some things, and, we've had the horrible floods here, and they're as bad as they can be. We're lucky that, things have changed. But in 1979, the city of Grafton and a lot of the communities there were flooded. And I still remember it. I had never seen anything like it because I'm from further into Minnesota, and I'd never seen anything like it. We had military guys coming to get me to take me to work, and the houses were flooded. We were lucky because we had a newer place, and it was up on a hill, and we were so close. I didn't know what to do because I thought I don't have the time in that. But we were lucky. We had some. The bad thing was we had a cat. The cat went out with me to look at how high the water was coming up, and it did. Grand Forks that year was also very flooded. But the worst thing was that mice and rats started coming up on the...
Sure.
But, that's stupid. But, that was really something. I've got photos of it, and I'll never forget it. But when you come here and you go through what we've seen and been through, you've been through it, you've seen it, that sort of stuff is something that even in news we'll never forget, and we were very close to it.
Yeah. Who were, in your early days, who were some of your mentors? Who were some of the people that taught you what you do, or was a lot of it just on the fly?
In Grafton, I had a very good friend of mine. I'll just say his name is John. He's a city commissioner here. He's a very good friend of mine, but he was running the the newspaper, and I got to know his mom first. She had the Cavalier paper, but very close. That helped. We were at times we were through the bad situations there, and then when I moved on here, I ended up with people like people like Al Ahmet, and it's hard for me to even think right now, but a lot of these people, they were in the TV side. I was in the broadcast side,
Sure.
on radio. And so, but the people I worked with, Mark Swartzell, who was like a brother to me, some of the people like that. And we learned as we moved, well, I did anyhow. Some of them had been doing the news for, long before I did. So there was a lot of great people that we worked with, both in the radio and the TV, and some of those people are still here, and I still think of them a lot. So,
yeah.
And then moving here, I mean, I was lucky. I was asked if I wanted to come here, and that was at 1996, and that was at the time when somebody we all know, and that's Ed Schultz. Ed was, I actually worked with him, not with sports, but with news at WDAY. And he got together with Paul, and they asked if I wanted to come, and I did. And that was 1996, and I've been there since. And I don't know. God must have given me good luck, because I was very lucky to come here. I do remember that.
We're lucky to have you here. Of course, you were talking about John Strand there.
Yeah.
In Grafton.
Yeah.
A lot of, and I know you keep in contact with him and Al. When Al comes in, you still keep in contact with Al.
Yeah, they're best friends in many respects.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So you talked about it earlier. You've seen a lot of things. You've floods and fires and shootings and of all the events that you've seen and you've covered, what stands out to you when you think back over all these 52 years, whether it's Grafton, you mentioned the one in 1979 there with the flood there, but what are those stories that you think of that really stick out to you over the years?
Where do you go with that? There's so many.
Yeah.
Obviously, we did a lot of action with law enforcement. I learned a lot more here. It was there's always crime and things like that, accidents and that sort of thing, and you do get to you see some of that, and you get used to it, but sometimes you don't. Because the very first time I saw a crash was when I was in Grafton. It was right before Christmas, and maybe I shouldn't even bring this up. And I do remember a man had stopped at one of the local store, I think it was John Deere, and he was dropped off, and his wife and daughter were going back towards the downtown area, and I got called as they were coming back to pick up their husband and the dad, and they had a bad crash. And I was very close to it. I was with some of the police there, and I started crying because of what I saw, and I'll never forget it. I saw the deaths, and you still see that sort of thing periodically. Look at how we deal with it. I mean, every day it seems like we have stuff. It's not always fatalities and that, but that sort of stuff stays in your mind. Yeah. And there's many other great things, though. Yeah. I remember that.
Yeah, well, I remember you telling me the stories about the flood of 96 there.
97,
the
flood it was 96, 97.
The bad winter of 96 and then the flood of 97. Yeah. Sleeping here on the floor at the radio station, and that had to have been a long stretch for you.
It did. It was weeks, and I do remember when it was even before the flood started, but there was a lot of problems with the river and that. Grand Forks lost all of its power, and we actually helped the Grand Forks mayor. It's terrible. I can't think of her name now, but a wonderful lady. We helped them. They got on our air to provide the information for people in Grand Forks. But that was just the beginning, because when it started, I remember we were plugged in with CBS, and it was so large. There were a lot of people that came here from other, from the networks and that. And I do remember. I don't want to say a lot, but several times I was out, and I know Paul and Bonnie and some of the other people that were with us, but I remember being out in the middle of the morning or very early in the morning. They were building the dams and things to stop it, and I had to go on live on on CBS, and they told me, "You start Don. This is Don Haney, CBS News," and and they'd ask me questions live on CBS News, and it was. You were. I don't think you were nervous. I wasn't nervous. I was just like, okay, I'll tell you what I'm seeing, and I'm seeing these guys that are trying to stop, tons of water from coming in and wrecking homes and everything else. So those are the sort of things we remember. 2009 is bad. You remember that? You're here. You were working at that time here in the area, and that was another nasty one. You just can't forget that sort of thing. But you try. I don't sit and think about it, but once in a while I'll look and see a story or something about it and all the things that happened. So,
And you covered presidents being in town too, I imagine. Right?
Yes, it was something that you get to see. And you try. They come. The one time that I really remember was at the NDSU basketball site there, where they were there. And to be quite honest, I can't remember all the people that were there, but it was packed, and we were able to connect with them. I do remember one of the presidents was at the Fargo downtown there. I think Joel might have even connected with him at that time. It was a while ago, but we do remember that sort of thing. And there was a lot of other people we've gotten to know. I found a card that we had in one of our containers here this morning, and it was from one of the U.S. senators that sent me a very nice note, and it wasn't a fake one. But he was congratulating me, saying, "I'm glad. I know that you were very wonderfully available. I guess when you were in Grafton, I know Grafton, but Quentin Burdick, and it wasn't fake. I mean, when I saw it, I forgot about it. I thought, well, maybe sometime I should put that in. It's not that often you get that sort of thing. And same with some of the other U.S. senators and that sort of thing. I was sent to one time. I was sent to Washington D.C. They flew me out, and it was protests against Jimmy Carter when he was president because of what was happening with, you think it's bad now, it was probably not as bad, but the farmers here were going bust. And I still remember it. And I was a little nervous about going, and so they sent my wife with me as well. But they shut down Washington, D.C. There was farmers from all over the country. And I was in newspapers because I was sending back stuff to what was then KXJB and also to a couple of the newspapers. And, I was a lot younger than I am now, but it was pretty amazing because they'd take you into the rooms and you'd hear these guys, they were trying to get others to do something about this because the farmers were going broke. I watched at the border here. I was up at, up at Pembina when the trucks that had the cattle and things that were coming through into the U.S., they usually came in through Pembina. The farmers were stopping them, and some of the people I was with that were in media from Grand Forks and that, they had left that night, and I was still there. And these guys actually stopped the trucks, and they pulled the drivers out and started beating them.
Really?
I mean, I saw stuff like that, and I mean, you can't believe it. I was close to getting. Well, I won't go any further. But it was just it was something that I had never seen before and couldn't believe. And at that time, the Pembina crossing, it was 24/7, but there weren't that many people there, and it was a lot smaller. Yeah. And I still remember that.
Speaking of going around, I know they've sent you all around the country, right? Didn't you go cover a story in Texas at one point? And you mentioned Washington, D.C. So you've literally gone all around the country covering stories.
Yes, that has happened. We had situation here where I could bring up the names, but there was a man that was charged with the death of a daughter here, and it was a major story. Never found her body. That's still out there, but he eventually was charged, and he was, found guilty and sent to a couple different places. The top of the line of the various jails around the country. And at one point, he was being taken to another place, and lo and behold, they were in the bus driving outside of. They were somewhere down in Colorado. I can't remember the town, but it was a highway, and they took a break at this gas station, and somehow he had some equipment and he got out, and he fled, and they didn't find him for a long time. The authorities in that state followed that intersection and that highway for a long time, and it was Interstate 40. It was a major place, and they didn't find him, and it was everybody was upset about it. We were out. I was out with another group from Fargo here, from KTHI at the time, some friends. They put us out in the desert, and they were still looking for him, and we were driving through rough country and everything, and he never showed up. And about a year later, one night, I forget the name of the show that used to be on, but they were doing stories on stories like that,
like America's Most Wanted.
America's Wanted, and two guys, or a wife and himself, they lived in an apartment, and they saw it, and they saw the picture of this guy, and they called authorities, and they ended up getting the FBI, and they caught him. And That guy's still, I won't bring up any names right now, but excuse me, he was taken into custody, and he's been in prison, I believe, somewhere in Arizona or possibly even Colorado.
Okay.
Excuse me, at this time. But I was sent there at the next day. I was able to, they said, get down there after he had been caught. So I was down there several times.
Was that Texas? Is that
it was in the suburbs of Dallas, Texas, a real bad part, because I stopped at I had to get out of the plane. I got a truck and stopped at a hotel, and they told me leave early out of here because there's 4-lane highways and you're not going to be able to find your way in. And this place where he was caught was it was a kind of a really bad part of the city. Mm-hmm. And so I was there, and this guy was he was working at some coliseum there, and so he was getting away with things with a different name. And I'm not trying to spread this out a lot, but he had a woman and 3 children that were very small, and I was there with police and some FBI guys, and she came and started talking to me, and she said, I don't have any money, and my children need milk and food. And I said, tell me where it is. And I started to go away, and somebody came already, and they brought stuff, but I still remember it. She was crying and thanking me. And
those things you see, yeah.
I do remember we got brought back in once he was put on the TV. I can't remember which one, but one of our this sounds stupid, and hopefully you can connect and cut this, but the governor took me with. We went to Washington, D.C. again. With that, they were giving $50,000 to this man and woman that were able to find him.
The reward.
And that was on TV. That was on that show. And I've still got the photos and that, but it was pretty incredible that and it was a national story. I mean, I'm just a media person, but I was there watching all of this happen, and
you had to go with the governor.
Yeah,
that's cool.
I've been shot a few times at too.
You've been shot at?
Shot at, yeah.
A half dozen shots went off in rapid succession, and all over the area. We're going to stay down behind our vehicles here.
Those shots were up in the air.
Those shots were up in the air, police are saying.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
When?
Well, let's see. What should I tell you? One of them was on. It was on Easter Sunday. We had come back from relatives that day, and we had a fourplex, and our place was up for sale. We were going to try to get a home. We did, but we pulled up, and by gosh, there the woman that was dealing with us. They had a sign that said "Been sold," and I was happy. And when I got home that day, I was looking at my phone, and there was a situation going on not too far from here, just to the east of us in a neighborhood. And there's a gentleman out there, and I believe we would call it, it was somebody who had been in the military and was very overwhelmed. And he was coming outside with one of his rifles. And people were down the block. They were out there watching it. I couldn't believe it. And he shot around the area. He shot some bullets, never hit anybody. It was like he was shooting up in the air. But they couldn't get him out of that house. And I do remember they evacuated everybody from that whole neighborhood. And I snuck back in, and I went over a fence, and there was a man and woman that lived just a couple houses down on the other side. And they told me to come inside, and I was there through the night, and they finally got him. But, when you're close to that with guns, there's another one that we were here one night. I was going to go get our dog, and I was driving one of the news trucks here, and I heard shots. And I thought, what's that? And my wife was with me, and we were going to go get the dog anyhow. So we went down. It's down in South Fargo. It's south of 94. And there was a guy, the same situation. It was a new series of the, I don't know, it was 3 or 4 levels of nice places. But this guy was outside and all that. And he was shooting. And I don't know for sure, but he had been in the East, and he had a lot of problems. And I've got friends of mine that most of them are retired now, but they were police officers. They tried to get into the building, and they knew how bad it was. They even crawled up the steps because the guy was shooting through the walls.
Really?
But he came out on the deck, and I was standing out there with my truck. It was, I don't know, not even a half a block away. And he came out, and that's when he started shooting. And the police were laying behind some of the equipment out in some of the other places that they were still building. And I yelled because some of the people were out there. I won't even, you'd know some of them probably, but they were out just watching. And I said, hit the deck. Honest to God, I did.
Yeah.
And I still have, I should probably show you, one of the police officers a couple of years ago found that because they had some video, and they showed me dipping down behind my truck, and the people started running then. But
wow.
that's the sort of stuff you see.
Wow.
I don't know. That's kind of goofy.
I
have bigger things than that, going to city council and commission meetings and being able to talk to all these people, but that's it.
Wow, that's so. One of my questions was, what is the scariest story you ever covered? Well, we maybe just just covered that one.
No, the worst one was at DAPL, Dakota Access Pipeline, and that was one that was a lot of bad things going on. I was out there quite a bit, and at one point I was with one of our buddies here, and it was bad weather. There had been some bad storms. It was icy and sliding, and we were up on the top of the road there looking down at about, if you looked out there, you'd think it was a town that was bigger than Castleton or whatever, but there were a number of various, there was buildings some people had brought in and built. There was bad things. The people had supposedly guns, and they brought in law enforcement from all over the country.
Yeah, this was the Dakota Access Pipeline protest out in Cannonball, yeah.
Yeah, and that time up on top of the hill, the only way we could get from that area was up on the hill. You'd look down, steep hill, and that's where all their stuff was. It was tents and all this stuff. Well, it was icy, and I thought I wasn't on the corner of the hill, because I even put I had it locked in and stuff, and I was waiting for one of our guys to come, and we were going to go down the hill and see some people, and all of a sudden my news truck started going down the hill, and and I was yelling because there were people down at the bottom that were building some tents and things for other people. There were a number of people that came from California to help. Yeah. There was doctors and all this stuff. But I started going down the hill. Joel thought I was trying to jump back into the truck. I knew I couldn't do that. That's what he told me after the fact. But I was yelling to these people, get out of the way, get out of the way. And it was so icy I fell and I got hurt. Yeah. And they took me to one of the giant tents, and all these doctors were from California, and they said, you need to go to the doctor, because my arm was all swollen and stuff. I'm not talking about myself, but I called. They told me, get back to Bismarck or Mandan, and it was snowing and all this stuff, and it was something pretty awful. But I know I called and one of the guys here, and I said, I don't want to go to a hospital here because it's storming and I don't want to get stuck here. And they said, come back. So I drove back with one hand and I got back and I got fixed.
Wow.
But we got, I was here when they broke it up. There was fires, and I had, I do remember North Dakota Highway Patrolmen that had masks on. I don't know who they were, but they knew who I was. And I didn't realize they had told the media not to get close to where they were going to be going into the area there. But, and they started yelling at me and told me, you want to go? They said, Don, we're going to take you into the jail in Bismarck. And I said, why? I said, I'm getting out of the area. And he said, you're not supposed to be here. Nobody told us that. A couple of us, anyhow.
Wow.
So, it's sort of, it's interesting things like that. Now it looks back rather interesting,
Yeah, very interesting.
I don't know.
So you have scary stories, sad ones, but you got to have some funny ones too. There had to be some funny stuff that happened to you out there.
We have a lot of those, and we even do some of it. Here, and
I have one that I'm
good.
Thinking
you
of
do it because I don't even know where to start.
Well, that you told me about.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about earlier that you interviewed presidents and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
You interviewed Al Gore one time.
I did
downtown.
Yeah.
What happened that day when you went up to the vice president?
You forgot about that was just prior to the '97 flood. It was going to be bad, and he had come, and we had there was a brief get together at the Fargo upstairs,
the Civic Center.
Civic Center, yeah.
Yep.
And he wanted to go out and look. And the snow was way high already, and they were putting up those 12-foot high. It was before we had the, they were piling up snow and all that stuff, getting ready because they knew it was going to come. And I had my phone with me, and it was Ed Schultz that was on the air here, and he wanted me to come on, and I told him what we had heard from the vice president. And then I said, I'm going outside to follow him because he's going up to look at the river and that. And so I had still had my phone with me, and I said, maybe I can get a hold of him right up close. And, of course, we were looking like, all of us, we were covered in snow and mud. And I've got, believe it or not, a military guy took a great photo of me, and I've got it somewhere. And it's pretty cool, I guess, actually, because it was a very nice comment. He came and he did finally talk to me, but he was walking with the Secret Service guys, and I was kind of getting close, and I stepped out, and I said, Mr. Vice President. And next thing I knew, they lifted me up off the ground. And literally, and I've got gear on me and everything else, and they said, what are you doing,
And you're live on the air at this point?
Yes. And I don't know if we've ever got that, but yeah. And I heard them saying something, Don, what's going on? I said, and I couldn't talk, and I think I dropped it in the snow because it was pretty. But at that point, the vice president said, put him down. And he asked me again who I was. Don Haney. I'm with a radio station here in Fargo. What's that? If I remember right, I said it's KFGO, and we do a lot of the news here, I did ask him several questions before he stopped or went on to the hill over by, I still remember that. And I didn't know that they had taken pictures of me. And that's, I haven't brought that up for a while, but there's a great photo of it. And I think it was a military. I don't know if it was Air Force or Marines or somebody, but there was a woman that was taking a number of photos. And I got one. So
yeah,
I should have it.
You should get it framed somewhere.
I should. I never did, but I took care of it. So.
I'd like to see that. I haven't
kind of
seen
embarrassed, yeah.
So speaking of mementos and things like that, you brought one in and told me a story earlier. You have something in front of you there. Tell that story.
No, I'm one of those people that likes history. I've been that way since I was in grade school, and I've went up, I read a lot of books on that. And I don't want to take too much time here more, but this is the story, and I've got actually a brick here, and somebody's wondering what the heck it is. I've had it in the newsroom here for a long time. But there was a gentleman, this is when I was from Grafton, and this guy owned a number of businesses in the city of Oslo, right next to the river, and he had for a long time been studying what he had heard was the last riverboat on the Red River, and this thing, for whatever reason, it was in 1912. 1912. It was hooked up next to something in Grand Forks, and it broke loose during the storms as it was getting worse, and it came upriver, which would take you up north, and it got chopped up in the ice and sank. But he knew where it was. And I've got photos of it. He's got how it was built in New Orleans back in the day and all this stuff. And he found a drive team. It was from Williston, and I believe they were police officers, but they had a police group that did their diving for certain things. And sure enough, they came. They found it. He had some big machines. They pulled parts of it out. What the things they were really looking for one, was the bell for this, but they never did find it. But it was quite a mess there. But a lot of that stuff, wreck location, they pulled out. And like I said, I've got a number of photos of it and that sort of thing. It was so big, they used a bulldozer to pull some of the pieces out.
Wow.
So, and some people would say, well, what the heck? It's just a... I always thought it was pretty good, the sunken wreck of a steamer. Yeah. And it was supposedly the last one, and there it was. And there are other ones that are sunk in the Red River of the North. I know there's people that you go further up north into the Pembina area and that you'll find some of that. But these guys went to look for it. And I don't know what I think he was going to give it to a museum somewhere, but I don't know that I don't know what happened to it after that. It was shortly after that I moved from that area, and I never followed up on it. But Elton Soldum was the name of the guy, and he was very smart.
Yeah, and so this brick that you have, that was from that wreckage.
Yes, it was. It was from there. It was part of their setup, and They found a lot of other things, and like I said, they gave it to the Walsh County Historical Society, and I think at some point it was put up in maybe it was Minto, North Dakota. They had put it in. I don't know how much of it. Some of it he kept, but at any rate, that's kind of an odd thing.
Yeah,
I don't think you want to talk about that.
No. These are fun stories.
The boiler was so large, a caterpillar pulled it from the river bottom. That's how big it was. Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
So, what are some of your proudest stories that you did that you think of that you're? I know you don't like to talk about yourself, but we're here and we're talking. When you think of, boy, I feel like I really am proud of the work that either you or the team did over the years.
I would say for certain it's the people I work with. That includes those now, and it's hard to believe. Paul and I knew one another before we both worked here. He was a young guy that worked at a radio station in Moorhead. I can't remember the name of it now. it's part of the area that we own now, but it was a country station. But we used to trade the news back and forth. In those days, we did it via phone. And that's how I got to know him. I knew he was there, and so I'd call him. He'd send me the story, and I would do the same for him. And that's how we got to know one another. And he told me he was from Fergus Falls. And I said, well, I got a relative, that sort of thing, And so that was one of the first things. And, he is the news director, and he is very active and whatnot. But I also consider him a friend, and you look at that sort of stuff. But I think so many of the people here, I look at these people, this place, for some reason, has the ability, I shouldn't say it that way because there's many others who probably do the same thing, but when you look at it and you see the wonderful people in this building, I'm going to be moving out. I've been long enough, and I'm going to be retiring to be with my wife and 2 big dogs and do some things. But you almost get tears in your eyes because it was a great place, and I was very lucky. I guess not everybody is that way. I know a lot of people that were in this business, and they worked in it, and bam, they were gone. They were out doing something else. But I was very lucky, and I loved what I've been doing.
Yeah.
Yep.
What's up next for you? What's next? You're retiring, and what do you got planned? What are you going to do with your time?
That's a good question. We've talked a little bit about it. We'll probably do some travel. We have to. The way it's been, I haven't been able to see our daughter and her husband and our grandchildren. They're getting older now. They're in high school and that sort of thing. But I hopefully be able to see them more. They're 2.5 hours away in central Minnesota. That's one of the things. And we have relatives in Arizona. Who knows? I don't think we'll ever make it across the world. I would like to go to Norway because, it's... the name Haney is not, that's Irish, but nonetheless, most of the relatives, they're all Norwegian. And I would like to go there. I've got friends that have told me to do that. I've got friends that live in Munich, Germany, that always tell me, there's groups of them, a couple of them that go every time, and they say, come on, Haney, come on, Haney. And I don't know if I would want to do that, but... that's the sort of thing. So we haven't really done that. And I know one thing for sure, I still won't sleep late. I think my sleeping late is maybe 5 a.m, and I've been used to this. Even now, when I don't, I can get up a little later. But first thing I'm going to do is go into a room downstairs that has 10 tons of stereo equipment and get a lot of records and that. And I need to build some new things because I've got so many stacks of stuff. And that's one of the things I thought. It seems like I could do it. I start doing it on a Saturday or something when you need time, but I haven't done that for a while. Yeah. So I've loved music ever since I was in junior high, and you guys are all into that too, I guess. But I've been that way since I was a kid.
Yeah,
Used to buy 45s, but I've had albums and CDs as well. But I made the stupid mistake of selling tons of my albums at one point because everybody was buying the the CDs, which I did and have, but I don't really do it anymore. But there's thousands of them on some racks. But I'm back at my albums too, thanks to my wife, who said you need to get back into that. So now I've got about 800 or so albums.
Oh wow!
But I'd like to sit down and listen to them.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I just have one more question for you. No, it's nothing bad. You've been a huge help to me. You welcomed me right in here when I came in. You were amazing.
No, I don't know about that, but thank you for that.
To teach me things and give me advice and things like that. What advice do you have for young broadcasters that are getting into this business now? You've been doing it so long, and one of the best that there is. What advice, if somebody wants to do this, what would you tell them?
Hopefully you'll have some abilities there to find out what the job is. I mean, a lot of people, they just drop in and they don't know what's going on. I think a lot of people now, one of our good friends here, they've been in journalism or parts of it in that, but times have changed. And for a while, I mean, the radio stations and that sort of thing, it was hard to find people because people were getting out of it. But there's still a good area for that job. But it's something that is just burned into you. You know, I guess I don't know anything else I can talk about other than the fact that I was always interested in the news, whether it was on TV or radio or whatever. And I've been that way for a long time, although some of the stuff right now is kind of disappointing, what's happening. But I don't want to get into that. But, you know, it's something that a lot of people just come to, and others, I don't know, it's just like me. I got into 10th, 11th grade, and this journalism's kind of cool, you know, and I can talk about it, and I can find stuff about history, and history was one of the big things that my dad also had, and so that's how I got to where I am at.
So just kind of get into it and do it.
You got to have you have to have somebody that gives you some of the abilities to do it. I mean, if you're smart enough, you can do that, you know, and I don't know that I was, but I was lucky to find people that I ended up with, and that's the way it went.
Well, Don Haney, one of the best in the business. That's a fact. Now, when we started out, you said that you were going to tell me about something you'll never forget, and I want to give you a chance to say that. Do you remember what that was? You said, before we go, I want to tell you something I'll never forget. You remember that?
I don't. I was blabbering a little bit, and I thought you're going to do something bad.
No.
Treat me. No, I know you would never do that, and I'm glad I didn't know you before this, even though I knew a lot of people that where you used to work before you came here. So that's kind of the way. Yeah. What was it?
I don't remember. You said you were going to tell me something that you'll never forget.
Maybe it was this.
Oh,
it was
maybe.
Sunken. The sunken farm.
The steamboat brick.
Yeah.
Well, no,
I'm going to show you some of the photos at some point here.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah, if you're into it.
So, right. Well, Don, I appreciate it. I appreciate everything you've done for me, everything you've done for KFGO, and for the business that we're in. I'm not saying this just because we're sitting here. I was a fan long before I started working here. My nights working in the driving around the city trucks, plowing snow and stuff. I knew Don Haney would be coming in, and if there was something big going on, you'd even come in before your actual shift started because you were just that guy that we knew we could go to and trust, and we'd get it straight.
Thank you. That's very nice of you to do, but I think all of us should look at you. I mean, I'm just sometimes I just say I'm a lucky person